Crystal Anderson. Should marijuana for medical purposes be legalized? What is marijuana? Marijuana is also known as cannabis, generally refers to dried, shredded leaves, stems, seeds, and flowers of the cannabis plant. The mixture typically is green, brown, or gray in color and closely resembles tobacco. The major mind-altering chemical in the cannabis is the THC. The amount of THC that you intake when you're smoking or eating or drinking the marijuana depends on how much of the effect you're going to get from it. Marijuana has been around since the early 1600s. It's become a common ingredient in medicine and openly sold in the pharmacies in the early 1800s. As a nurse, I believe that marijuana taken for medical purposes would greatly help patients deal with long-term diseases and their side effects of treatments. I also believe that medical marijuana should be closely monitored by a physician and a pharmacist. Why should marijuana be legalized? The strongest argument for legalizing marijuana is for medical purposes. Marijuana can be used to treat many diseases and different health issues. Legalizing marijuana will make it easier for patients to receive the drug, and it will make it easier for the scientists to study the drug further and to confirm that the drug actually medically does have a purpose. Marijuana can be used for many medical uses, including treatment of inflammation, cough, cramps, insomnia, arthritis, gout, side effects of chemotherapy, epilepsy, and even venereal diseases. A few of the diseases that it treats is it can treat glaucoma, which is a progressive form of blindness. It'll help relieve the pressure in the eye. If a patient's actually having an asthma attack, it'll help by expanding the lungs and letting them breathe. It can help with muscle spasms and pain associated with epilepsy and multiple sclerosis. Marijuana can treat incontinence of bowel and bladder. It can also relieve depression. The main one as a nurse that I think about when I think about medical marijuana is cancer patients. When they're on chemotherapy, it causes extreme nausea and vomiting. The active ingredient is to the THC, and it's a central nervous depressant, which will reduce the nausea and even control the vomiting. As most of you know, if you've ever had a family member or somebody you know who's currently on chemotherapy, they have no appetite at all. The marijuana will increase their appetite, and it can also help alleviate any pre-treatment anxiety. How safe is marijuana? Marijuana is it can be safer than alcohol or prescription drugs. Unlike alcohol and prescription drugs, marijuana is not lethal by overdose. Alcohol and tobacco are more toxic, more addictive, and can be more harmful to the body than marijuana. Alcohol is more likely to result in injuries and lead to interpersonal violence. Legalizing marijuana will result in a decrease in the death and violence due to the unregulated black market trade. A little bit of the financial standing with marijuana. Reports estimate that $10 to $14 billion of an annual savings and revenues from marijuana regulations. The leading economist would prefer a system in which marijuana is legal but taxed. Harvard economist professor Jeffrey Marone includes that marijuana legalization would create approximately $14 billion in benefits every year. It's estimated right now that the United States government spends about $10 billion to keep the marijuana off the streets, while the state of California alone gets a revenue of $14 billion a year from legal sales of marijuana. Currently, Alaska, Arizona, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, Maine, Massachusetts, Michigan, Montana, Nevada, New Jersey, New Mexico, Oregon, Rhode Island, Vermont, and Washington all have medical marijuana legalized at this time. That's 18 different states. And just recently, Colorado and Washington have legalized the use of recreational marijuana. Many Americans think that the drug is morally wrong because of religious codes prohibits the use of intoxicating substances. Marijuana is believed also to be a stepping stone drug that can lead to addiction of other drugs. A little bit on how marijuana works. The effect of the THC on the brain, it causes the user to feel euphoric or a high feeling by acting on the brain's reward system, which is made up of regions that govern the response of pleasurable things like sex and chocolate, as well as known as most other drugs do. THC activates the reward system in the same way that nearly all drugs do, by stimulating brain cells to release the chemical dopamine. The most common way to take marijuana is to smoke it. Users can roll it into a cigarette, also known as a joint, or they can put it into an empty cigar casing, also called a blunt. You can smoke it in a pipe or a water pipe, also known as a bong. It can also be taken in by food, eaten, or mixed into tea. I believe that the legalization of marijuana for medical purposes only will soon be effective in all 50 states. Medically, doctors write prescriptions for the THC pills, and that can cost up to $800 to $1,000 for a 30-day supply, which is really expensive because most insurance at this time won't pay for it. People with concerns that marijuana is a great gateway drug need to consider that alcohol and nicotine can both be classified into the same category. So can caffeine. Nicotine, for example, nicotine has been medically proven harder to kick or to get rid of the addiction than heroin. Me working in the medical field, I believe that marijuana will ease pain, discomfort, and other side effects associated with chemotherapy and cancer patients. I just personally think that not much longer and we will have medical marijuana legalized in all 50 states. I personally don't agree with recreational uses, but medical uses would be fine. Thank you.